One recap of SPS Nuremberg. You guys are currently looking at the overview of the Siemens booth that is nearly live. Now, to Vlad and myself. Hey everyone, how's it going? As you guys can see behind us, we are in SPS Nuremberg. It is Tuesday, which means it's officially a day one. It's a day two for Vlad and I, and today has been absolutely jam-packed, completely full. Hope you guys can see and hear us well. It is a completely packed booth. As Vlad and I were walking through the other halls, we'll tell you guys about that in just a minute. I think I remarked to Vlad that I think that there is as many people currently in this Siemens booth as there seems to be in half of the other halls all put together. So very exciting about all of that. Vlad, over to you. Do you have any specific takeaways, any highlights that you want to share with everyone?
Well, I think the first I want to say thought on my mind is the presentation that we ran through at 12:30. It was a very interesting moment for us. So we were on stage. For those who may not have seen it yet, it will be released live through the Siemens website, so you can watch back a lot of the presentations, including ours. From what I understood, there is a 1 day delay, so it should be posted live tomorrow. But it was a very interesting, I want to say, experience. So we had a chance to present around the future of automation. We talked about the IT/OT convergence. We gave a couple of insights, both from Dave and I's side, and I think that was very, very well received based on the feedback that we got. That being said, outside of the presentation, I think we had a chance to not only visit the Siemens booth, and we'll discuss a couple of topics, but also we had a chance to look at some of the other booths. So, Dave, going back to you, what are some of the maybe key items that we looked at today?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think I'd like to start off talking about a new announcement today, an announcement that, as I told Vlad, I wish I knew was coming out earlier so we could have been slightly better prepared, but industrial co-pilot is what Siemens is calling it. If you guys have been following along our channels earlier, you'll have seen a couple of segments where we talked about Semantic Chatbot, which was like a Chat GPT integration. It was very early on, and I think the promise was it'll come back in 2025 or 2024. Today, we got an official announcement of Industrial Copilot. So very much, how can we take process information and other information and distill it in a Chat GPT style natural language offering, which, if you guys have watched the show for last month when we talked about cybersecurity, we had a long conversation about that with Clint Bodegen. That was super exciting. I'm very excited to see where that goes. I've seen a couple of other groups also announce similar co-pilots. And if we can do things to make it easier to allow people who are not the most technical folks to go pull information quickly, I am all for that personally.
Yeah, and if I can add on that side, so again, we had a demo that was presented to us at Automate, and those who were at the conference may have seen what the capabilities were at the time. So in my mind, it was also creating code via ChatGPT prompts, but also to document code. And Chris Liu was the one I remember that demonstrated that feature, right? So you could essentially take a piece of code that was developed for a specific machine, and you could ask ChatGPT, well, could you create the documentation based again on the descriptions that have been put in, based on the labels of the different sequences. So those were the features that we saw at Automate. We haven't seen the official demo yet together with Dave. I think that's what we're going to be doing in one of the sessions that we're trying to line up here this week. So certainly excited if there has been advancements and new developments that will be released as of SPS.
Absolutely. Another one of the things that we briefly touched on this yesterday was the kind of convergence of all things edge, right? It seemed like virtually every area we went to had some sort of edge integration, be it IPCs, be it edge apps, be it edge something else. I feel like Vlad and I have just gotten to the point of we look at something, and we're like, okay, but can we take this application and put it in the edge marketplace, or how can this go live on edge? And it might be because we have Chris Liu with us taking us around, and we just have edge on the brain. But I would say the answer to almost everything is yes, right? The answer to almost everything of can it be in the edge marketplace or how does it go on edge? The answer is almost always yes. Would you agree, Vlad?
Definitely, and I'd say like one of the examples that we've looked at the demo of today was Mendix. So this is a company that has been, if I understood really well, acquired by Siemens a couple of years ago, and now they're porting one of their solutions or one of their software offerings into the Edge ecosystem. And essentially, it allows you to create, first and foremost, flows based on no code, low code, but it also has other applications. So it has a hub or a marketplace, if you want to call it that, of various applications that are primarily designed for perhaps the IT side, but ultimately plugged in into the data that comes out of the OT space. So I think that we've gotten a really good demo today with Dave. There's a lot of information on Mendix specifically. I think we still have some questions as to how it integrates into the industrial edge application and ecosystem. That being said, we're also going to have a conversation that's going to be a little bit more detailed with the experts from Mendix.
Absolutely. And talking about Mendix, I think we only got to talk to them for 20 minutes. I think the comment was that they are very much they kind of fit the IT OT space of Microsoft and Microsoft's Power Apps. So if you guys are Microsoft Power users, you've probably played around with Power Apps. I cannot tell you how many conversations I have had that included, hey, should I go build this on an industrial platform, or can I just build it on Power Apps? And so I think that is very interesting. As Vlad said, I'm interested to go kind of dig into what those delineations are. One of the things that I think we have confirmed is that you could go build those Power Apps style offerings on Mendix, but then go port it over into the Edge ecosystem. So if you guys already have Industrial Edge with the device managers and the Edge managers and all of that, you can go port those Mendix style apps over into it, and it should work seamlessly, which is, I mean, it's amazing, right? Like it's what we all hope for, and it's probably the downside to using another application software. Is having to go figure out how to get people to use another system. So anything we can do to reduce systems, you guys know Vlad and I are fans of.
Let me ask you another question, Dave. So we see a lot of robotics applications. Yep. I don't think we've explored all of them per se, right? There's a lot of AMRs, there's a lot of Delta robots, there's a lot of arms as well, if you can see behind us. But you expressed some interest in the vertical farming that I believe you've seen at Hanover Messe in the past. Like, maybe what is your interest in that? And I think we're also going to be having some conversations in that space. Any early impressions at this stage?
I guess for me, I feel like like almost everyone else, loves robotics, right? We walk the trade show floor and we're like, oh, what is this robot doing? It is great to go see the software. Sometimes software is really hard to go showcase because software lives on displays and dashboards. Being able to go look at robots and robots moving. We saw some of those in the Siemens booth at Automate. We saw a bunch of robots as a whole in Automate. Beyond that, being able to go look at Delta robots, being able to go look at the vertical farming applications are really interesting. I think Vlad and I spent a combined 20 minutes just staring at one Delta robot as it was doing like super high speed picking and placing. And then the outputs, the pieces they were moving, went on a conveyor line, and then it like ripped the items back and forth, up and down. So that was super interesting. Again, I think Vlad and I just like mentally zoned out for 20 minutes as we were trying to figure out all of the intricacies of the robots.
I think we got focused too much maybe on the mechanical aspects and the pulleys.
Oh yeah, I've got no idea what it was supposed to showcase.
Right.
Vlad and I could tell you everything about the mechanical pulleys of the robots.
I think the idea was that it was pulling some data into the industrial edge hub that was sitting in like a different booth, and they were doing some predictive maintenance and some analytics via IIH, right? So they were pulling some data. Again, we didn't see that demo in full from what I understood, but the intent of the robot was to show how it's picking and placing, and then the data that is tied into that. I want to maybe, Dave, shift our conversation into some of the other booths and areas that we've seen. So again, this morning we had a bit of a time to visit Benson with the Opto 22 team, as well as the inductive automation space. Yep. What was maybe your takeaway on that side from the conversation we had?
So
with Benson?
it's always great to see Benson in person. I feel like I could not tell you the last time he and I necessarily saw each other in person, despite the fact that we've had him on the show at least 2 or 3 times since I have seen him in person. One, it's always great to see him. We traded some manufacturing hub stickers for some Groove Opto 22 stickers. I will say Lewis has given us the stink eye. We will have him on here to berate us live in just a moment. But it was great seeing him. I think my favorite part of that is we were talking about the beginnings of OPCUA. And where Opto is, they are right next to the OPCUA Foundation, which is huge over through the entirety of Europe. And Benson walked us all the way back down to the very beginning, and it listed Opto 22 as one of those founding members at the very beginning of the foundation of OPCUA. Was it 95?
Oh,
I think we're going to say 1995 because no one is on here at the moment to correct me. But then it was 25 feet or 8 meters for all of our European listeners worth of space of everything that has happened from that point. So I thought that was amazing. It is always great to see Benson face to face. And then we popped over to the 𝐓𝐿 folks and we got to see 𝐓𝐿𝐽𝐽. It's always great to see him. I feel like he and I only see each other at shows like this. We did some more sticker trading. I will say, if you guys are here and want manufacturing hub stickers, whether you have stickers to trade or not, come see us. And we'll make Vlad crack open his package of stickers that I give him. And he seems to have the perfectly complete package of stickers at the very end of the show because I'm the one doing all the sticker giving.
Absolutely. And Dave, I think you mentioned this a little bit earlier. We want to bring in Lewis, who's been our amazing host from Siemens at the booth this week. And so he's been making a lot of the introductions. I think we've also gave some credit to Chris Liu. But Lewis, as you come onto the manufacturing hub,
welcome back. I think it has been nearly 100 episodes since we've had you on live.
It's been a long time, but we don't talk about the past.
So impressions from SPS, what have you seen? What are you noticing? Maybe what are some of the key highlights in your view?
I mean, this is only my second time at SPS. I went last year for the first time, and it's just as amazing as I remember it from last year. This is, in my opinion, I think this is, and this is my genuine opinion, I honestly think SPS is probably the best automation fair to go to, globally, right?
Yep.
If you are in automation, and not just, the Siemens booth because it's an entire hall, but just, I mean, if you're in manufacturing in general, you're getting the opportunity to see all the latest and greatest technology from all vendors, right? I mean, when have you walked into a factory and it's 100% Siemens? I mean, Siemens doesn't make everything.
For us, never.
I'll be honest, right?
Yes.
But I mean, just the Siemens Hall right now, you could spend a whole day just walking around.
At least.
Yeah, exactly. At
We
least
are currently one day in, and we realize we've missed critical demos.
Yeah,
yes.
We still missed half of the booth, right? So, I mean, it's crazy. I think as far as like technology, some of the things that I've seen today that I want to find out more about tomorrow and the coming day after that is the Mendix on Edge you guys were just talking about. I thought that was really cool. I definitely want to see some more on that. So a lot of AI solutions out there that we're showing here, from robotic applications to just optimizing, whatever performance, or even just things like condition monitoring based AI. And then, of course, some of the stage presentations. You guys did awesome today. I know tomorrow you guys also have the Manufacturing Hub podcast on the main stage, which is going to be really cool.
Yes.
Actually, as we're talking right now, one of the guests on your podcast is going to be none other than CEO of Factory Automation, Rainer Brehm. He's actually on the stage right now giving a press conference in German, of course, but he'll be on the show tomorrow in English.
Yes.
And then we have 𝐓𝐿𝐼𝐶𝐚𝐲, the head of our control, systematic control for Siemens. And then we also have Dr. Gerhard Kress for Siemens Accelerator. So a lot to cover just in a, Manufacturing Hub podcast, but I'm really excited to have you guys here to represent.
Let me maybe put you on the spot a little bit. What question would you have for Rainer Brehm if you were on that stage?
I think the premise of what we're talking about, right, with the Manufacturing Hub theme this month being the future of automation, right? Just where do you see the biggest leap in terms of automation in the next 5 or 10 years.
Yep.
5 to 10 years, right?
Yep.
Do the rise of platforms give way to that, right? Is that something that there's a lot of talk around platforms for OT? So is that in the edge computing space? Is that cloud based? Is that, what kind of platforms are we talking about, and what does that look like in the OT space? How do we bring what we're used to on our phones, right? A smartphone is kind of a platform, iOS, Android, all that. How do we bring that to the familiarity of that to the manufacturing space?
Absolutely.
I think that's going to be really interesting to just hear his perspective of like.
I would agree, and I would say to add to that point is that one of the interesting things about coming to the shows over in Europe is that they are always so forward-looking, right? So we're seeing Industrial Copilot that I think gets launched officially in 2024 to actual customers. We're seeing virtual PLC that you guys have already seen here, but is going to come out to some extent in V19, which is also launching here, and is going to be probably in factories in 2024 and 2025. So we're seeing things. I find that many of the US shows these are the cool things that already exist. Most of the time here, we see the things that already exist, but we also see the things that are coming out in the next 6 to 18 months, and be prepared for this. And if you're a customer of ours, please come ask us about this, because you might be able to go get a beta as we go through this.
And if I can add to that point, I think what's also really interesting is, again, Louis, you mentioned this a little bit, but there's a feel for software, you know what I mean? So I think that in the past, there's been a lot less, not necessarily availability, or a lot more focus on hardware, versus now I think we're seeing all the platforms that make it possible to create whatever you need on the software layer, and to make it simpler to deploy, again, a custom application that is independent, let's say, of the hardware. And I know that Siemens has launched a number of initiatives on that side. And I think it's also interesting bringing that back to the conversation tomorrow. I know that Rainer Brem has a computer science background, which makes it really interesting. Again, I don't know how his influence on the strategy is on that side, but I think it's really interesting to see kind of the software side taking a lot of shape.
I think it's interesting. I think what we see here a lot on the Siemens side is that it sounds cliche, right? IT OT convergence, right? But I think it's fair to say that we haven't really seen like significant leaps in terms of IT OT convergence in the last decade or so, even though we've been saying that kind of buzzword. But I think what we're seeing here is a lot more of those examples where we talk about low-code app development for like industrial edge, right? Using Mendix, right? We're talking about, bringing IT tools like Somatic AX, which is, like Visual Studio, to the shop floor for engineering automation systems, right? We're talking about using digital twin technology and simulation to simulate and be able to predict stoppages in manufacturing and production, right? All kinds of technology. Cybersecurity, obviously, being another big topic for IT OT integration, right? I think we're seeing a lot more use cases of what that really means, what that looks like, not just like with the technology space, like what kind of technology, but like actually applying it into a real scenario, a real use case. I did forget to mention, and one thing I did want to say was there's a really cool actual use case. I don't know if you guys heard, right? About a year ago, Siemens announced the accelerator, and then we announced shortly after that a partnership with NVIDIA on industrial metaverse. There's actually some live demos on the floor with the industrial metaverse where they have a battery plant, a giga plant or whatever, running in the background in the metaverse, and then they have a real machine that's a battery packaging machine.
We looked at it, but we didn't get like a full demo, so I think we just
it's really cool to kind of do that, right? You kind of have a mix of the real and the virtual world, and seeing the realism of that metaverse simulation. It's not just like something that you put on your VR glasses. It looks like a video game. I thought that looked really cool. So anyway, right now,
let me ask you another question, Louis. So as someone who is, I want to say, a lot more embedded into the Siemens ecosystem than the two of us,
I hope he's not going to ask the question that
are there any applications?
So for longtime listeners of the show, you may know that Vlad always loves to what we would call in English and American the third rail. So if we go on and say, Vlad, we cannot possibly ask this question.
No.
I feel like we 100%.
No, I want to hear the question as long as it's not.
Nothing.
Okay.
Anyways, are there any surprising, I guess, use cases or applications that are, that you maybe knew less about, or you're surprised to see, or anything interesting that caught your eye?
I thought one of the things I thought was pretty interesting, as simple as it sounds, is Somatic Robot Simulator.
Mm-hmm.
So we've had simulation tools that can simulate robots, especially like in a line and several of them. And we have tools to control robots. But this Somatic Robot Simulator is actually a simple use case where like you just want to simulate one robot. You want to simulate the PLC code, controlling the robot motion, right? And maybe you're a smaller or medium-sized business. I could absolutely see the benefits of the use case for those, for that type of tool set, right? Being able to do a proof of value, proof of concept before you actually buy a robot, I think is big by itself, right? And so having those software tools to do that, accessible, low cost, easy, I think that's kind of the name of the game. And to me, like I said, I think that makes it a lot more attractive for those small and medium businesses to get into digitalization without having to think about like, oh, this is going to cost me a fortune to do this. I'm just a small little guy. I can't afford it. No, I mean, digitalization is attainable by anybody, right? All kinds of businesses of all sizes. So, and
where can we see that robotics demo?
Well, I could point to it right now, but that means nothing to the.
I mean, what's the platform? What can someone who's visiting SPS go look at?
So it's definitely under our design. Actually, the area right behind us, if you can see the sign, it's under the design area. Talking about our robot integration. So there's actually a robot demo Delta picker right next to it. So in that general vicinity, I can't remember the kiosk number, what it is, but I would definitely look for it there. And if you are visiting the fair in person, even virtually, technically, we have the booth navigator. So you can actually kind of find what solutions you're looking for and do that online, or if you're here in person, of course, check that out, and makes it easier to find your way around what's where.
Awesome. Real appreciate that.
I would say we will certainly have to add those to the booths that we're going to go visit, if only because we spend 5 minutes talking about them. And I think the listeners would absolutely kill us if we do not do so. So everyone who watches knows that this is a live show. I'm going to step off. We've got some chat coming in. So I am going to see if we've got a bunch of any comments. We see John DeTellum in there. Hey, John, thanks for being here. We've got Kevin Wu telling us to set our phone to slow motion for the picker. And then John in there talking about how Siemens is the leader in innovations. So thank you guys for that. I will say that if you guys are not watching live, it is fairly early on the East Coast and not a normal day that we're in. You guys can go check the recap. Please go ahead. Be sure to check. We will go for the next at least half a dozen hours before we all go to sleep. Make sure to check the comments and be able to go ahead and reply to those comments. But any other thoughts before we tell them where to find us for the rest of the week?
No, I think it was an awesome day. We looked at many different applications. Again, shout out to Chris Liu who made those introductions. Thank you, Louis. Really appreciate it. And looking forward to the conversations tomorrow as well as Thursday. But Dave, you give us more details.
Absolutely. I will say before that, we do again want to thank all the folks at Siemens for bringing us in and giving us a place to be, and maybe borrowing us these amazing lights overhead so you guys can see us really well. It has been a fantastic first couple of days, day one of SPS. So thank you to the entirety of Siemens for that. If you guys want to catch more of us, you can, of course, check us out here. So if you're watching on LinkedIn, we will be streaming tomorrow, which is Wednesday at 5:30 Central European time, which is 11:30 a.m. East Coast time. So you guys can come watch us do an awesome panel set of conversations as you're eating lunch. And then on Friday, we will have a grand finale recap also to the center stage back behind us over there. That will be a little bit early. That is 4 o'clock Central European time. We're closing out the entirety of the fair, which is 10 a.m. East Coast time. So we are super excited to do that. You guys can go follow us along here. We will have a link if you would like to go, and we ask you guys to go sign up for all of those Siemens speaker presentations. It is Siemens.com. You guys search SPS 2023. You can do that. We'll also have a link in the chat shortly after we are done with that. This has been amazing. Again, thank you to everyone. Drop us your questions. Drop us booths that we should go see. Until tomorrow, we'll see everyone soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.